Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to a cup of tea, a cup of tea with Dr. Z. This is episode 1, and you are all very, very welcome. Before we start, I just want to invite the Holy Spirit. So thank you, Father, for being with us. Thank you for being with us on this journey. Everyday women from across the world sharing stories about breakthroughs and bounce backs and balancing acts and all things in between. And we are just so happy that you're with us. Now, I know you're wondering, what is this going to be about? Dr. Z, who is Dr. Z? If you don't know me, take away the doctor. I'm just an everyday girl, just like you, with everyday struggles, everyday bounce backs, and everyday balancing acts. And today I'm going to talk to an amazing woman who has so many stories to tell us. By the time you finish listening to her, you're going to feel like you can fly. And I mean that literally. Now, I'm going to read a little bit about her. My guest is all the way from Ottawa in Canada. And her name is, I like to call her the amazing, the phenomenal Lisa Marie Flynn. Now, I'm going to read a little bit about her because I'd like to always, give you a bit of context about the people that come on this amazing show. This is the first one, but I'm talking, talking, in the future, because you've always got to think about where you want to be in the future. So let me just read a little bit about her so that you know who I'm letting into your life and into our spaces. It's a safe space for safe places. And just give me a few seconds. I had it a second ago. It's always funny when you do your very first show. I've done this so many times before, but this is, a different version, a more improved version. And she says, here we go. Right. And if you're on Facebook, welcome. If whatever platform you're on, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on the replay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to a cup of tea with Dr. Z. Right, let me tell you a little bit about this amazing woman. Now, Lisa Marie Flynn, who is she, you'll be wondering? Who is this woman all the way in Ottawa in Canada? Now, I'm all the way in London, so you can imagine, but with technology, everything is so much smaller. Now, Lisa Marie is a sensational, and I mean that, sensational singer. She's a composer. She's a choir director. She's a pianist. And she's a successful speech coach for members of parliament. That would be in the US and also in, elected government officials in the US and in Canada. She's an entrepreneur in her solo music business and a sales director for a global beauty brand. And she earned the hashtag, I like this. When I read this, I laughed. Miss Flynn for the win during COVID when she was teaching high school kids. She's also a strong single mom, of 3 amazing, wise men, Benjamin, Liam, and Joseph. I've met Joseph. I was speaking to him the other day. He is absolutely divine. And for a second, I thought maybe I need to have one more daughter because I have a new son-in-law. But no, 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 no. Anyway, in addition, we're going to talk a bit more about Lisa Marie about her future because she has so many things in the offing for 2024. And if you remember, when I was sharing about this earlier on, I talked about the reason why I'm doing this show is I had made a promise to myself in 2022 and to do this. And now 2023 is almost out. And I said, no, it's always about keeping the promises you make to yourself. I'm a coach and I'm always kicking people up the butt to make sure that they're accountable, they realize their goals, they do what they say they're going to do, they make sure that they up their income and all that. But it always starts from home. It starts from yourself. I like to say to people, reinvention is an inside job. You can't give what you don't do. So I said to myself, yes, 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 I can't allow 2023 to go without fulfilling every promise I made to myself. And this was the last one. So I've just made it. But if you're listening right now, I want you to know it's never too late for you to keep the promise to yourself. Today is the 8th of December, so you still got a few more days before the end of the year, and you can do what I've done. I'm an everyday woman just like you. Now, enough about me and enough from me. I'm going to invite the amazing Lisa Marie into. She's in the green room listening to all this. I'm going to invite her in, and then we'll take it from there. Lisa Marie, I can see her. She's smiling. I can see. Hello, Cindy. Hello, Michelle. Hello, Shanita. I can see you in the green room as well. Right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Hello, Lisa Marie. Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
Thank I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. May I have a spot of tea?
Yes, you can. You can have a spot of tea. Okay. Can you get?
Thank you. It's tea with Dr. Z.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
perfect.
right.
Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Hope it's not too hot. It's just a fresh brew. Oh my days. I love it, love it, love it.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much. Welcome to my first episode of A Cup of Tea with Dr. Z. Thank you so much for gracing this wonderful, invitation. Thank you also for being an everyday woman with an everyday story. I know you've got loads of stories, and I don't know which one we're going to choose. Um,
Yeah.
if I tell you how I've met this amazing, incredible woman, we'll be here till next year. So let's just say it's a story for another day, another everyday story for another day. So
Amen.
let's just do this right away. How would you say? Because I want to really touch on how when you do something unexpected, or when you do the unexpected and you're not really imagining that it's going to do anything great, you're just doing it, but it's like, and all of a sudden something great comes out of it. Do you have any stories that you can share about that?
Um, yeah, I was kind of thinking about that, and I have to say the one thing that comes back to me time and time again is for me, um, when I've stood up for myself. Um, I didn't always know I was going to do it. It didn't mean that I had this fire in my belly that lasted for weeks and weeks or months that I knew I was going to put into action. I certainly didn't know what kind of result would ever come, but usually it was in those moments. Um, in a moment where, I kind of put my foot down in my head and just said, hang on, hold the phone. Um, maybe, just maybe, I need to say something for me. And it's happened as a singer looking for a stipend through the churches when I've been singing at funerals really early on, which is just over 20 years now. And everybody had their own expectations and stuff, and nobody really knew what a live musician was like, or somebody who's gone to school. I did 7 years of university in the arts. It could be creative arts, it could be musical arts, it could be music theater, it could be fine art. And so people that aren't exposed to that don't have a sense of that. We have a sense of what happens when we're dealing with sports because we watch that a lot, but we don't always have a sense of what that's like in the creative world. So I've had moments where it's like, well, hey, maybe it's this, and maybe I could get this. So that was one story. Another time was, I think, just times where we don't feel so strong, or we feel a little wounded. And for me, it was a time where I felt quite wounded, but I also kind of felt like I was coming back into things. And I was kind of becoming more aware of myself, more aware of the strength that I really did have. And I spoke up and I ended a relationship. And that relationship in particular was not healthy. And it didn't start that way, but it became that way. And so to stand up for myself and say, you know what, I need time for me was how I pitched it because I didn't want to hurt the other person,
Yeah.
but I need time for me. and that time for me means I need to be alone. And it's hard when you're dealing with other people because we could say things to ourselves all day long,
Yeah.
but it's hard because we don't know what their response is going to be. Is that going to be positive or negative?
Yes.
Are we going to get rejected? Are we going to get judged? Are they going to come on board to our side of thinking? And it's not even for that purpose. It's just, can we be respected in those moments that we stand up for ourselves? And I think the respect first comes from us, and
Absolutely.
then people may or may not follow, and that's all we can do. So those
Absolutely.
were kind of the two scenarios that I had thought of.
Absolutely. I mean, I really like that, so much, standing up for ourselves, because I guess someone might be, I don't know, in Australia, in Fiji, in Africa, somewhere in Asia. It doesn't matter where you are, but there will be a woman, an everyday woman, just like you, just like me, and just like other people that are listening, and all the amazing women in the green room as well, where they haven't been able to stand up for themselves. I have so many examples for myself where, I felt I'm too loud. And so I might tend to shrink, so as not to be noticed, so as not to be seen as being a show off, so you try to shrink. And I guess that we often have the tendency to do that when we feel that people are judging us, or where we feel rejection, like you pointed out, or where we don't know where the next meal ticket's going to come from. So you tend to do what you wouldn't be your authentic self. And I guess that you, myself, other people listening to this kind of story realize that they have to stand up for themselves, because no one else is going to stand up for you. Or let's change it. People may stand up for you, but no one can stand up for you as you can stand up for yourself. And people tend to take cues from us. So if we look down on ourselves, if we intimidate ourselves, if we underplay ourselves, if we say that we are nothing, we are rubbish, or whatever, people will take that from you. So, for instance, in relationships, if you don't value yourself, that is the value that people, maybe a significant other, will place on you, or even your children, or even your boss at work. You might be listening around the world, and I don't know the time zones, depending on where you are, you might still be at work, and you're paid to do a particular job. And all of a sudden at 6 o'clock, your boss says, "Oh, can you just do this?" And you take it on and you do it because you don't want to offend. But when it comes to um, promotions and bonuses at the end of the year, you get passed over because you don't have any boundaries. And it happens to all of us. So I'm not judging. It's happened to me. And I know, Lisa, you can, share experiences with that as well. But the amazing thing that you've said is that when you've stood up for yourself, great things come to you, unexpected results. And I'd like you to touch on that a bit more, about the unexpected results that you have experienced.
Sure. So I was just starting at a church that was new to me. It had a 40 voice choir, and I was hired by the priest and the office manager to take that on. And it did become needed that when they had celebrations of life or funerals at this church, that they would need a musician. And I do sing and play piano. And so that's a little different than what some other people might do. And having gone to school as a musician. So there was this one time where um, I had not communicated what I felt my rate should be. And after the first funeral, okay, let's have a conversation. So I kind of asked a few questions, but I didn't respond with very much. So a couple of times later, I said, well, actually, my fee is this. And it was double what they were offering. And it wasn't a huge offer to begin with, but I was requesting because I felt that I was two musicians. I sing and I play at the same time.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I, yeah, I remember, thank you. I remember very clearly that I did get the envelope from the funeral home, and I kind of just sighed because it was the initial amount. um, not my requested amount. And I was like, okay, so I'm packing all of my things up. I'm leaving the church to go by the office. And as I was going by the office, the priest came out and he came to me and he gave me an envelope. He said, I want to respect that what you do, not many other people can do. And so here part of what you requested. And this had been the gentleman to say, well, this is what we've always paid. Because I think we
Mm.
all got into habits of this is the way we've always done things,
Yes,
which is what you're saying,
yes,
you know?
yes,
And
yes,
and
yes.
I was just shocked. And from there on, I felt I did feel a validation. I felt communication um, win, and and I really felt like a person, like I was coming into my own. I mean, we are talking about 20 some years ago, so I wasn't like a little younger than the ingenue I am now. But we don't know what we don't know, and we haven't tried what we haven't tried. What are we going to do that's going to be different?
Absolutely.
And so I've been confident since then, saying, "Yeah, this is what I do, and this is what it is." And since then, I think I got asked 2 months ago if that was really my rate. And I was able to give a background, but I've also adjusted my rate based on people and what their needs have been. But it just fueled me to be able to say, okay, I can say something, not feel like the world is going to come down on me. And it really became more about speaking for myself and my
Absolutely.
truth than it
Absolutely.
was about the result. The result was great, and it has been great ever since. It puts bread and butter on my table. It puts a roof over our heads. My boy's boots that he keeps growing out of at the age of 10. Another plastic piece. Mom, I need another boot. What? We just bought these like 3 weeks ago. And so we're here to feed the masses. We're here to feed all the children of the world and then some. And so that was the biggest takeaway. That was the biggest takeaway. And I think I've remembered that moment, and I've remembered the positive feedback that I had from that priest in that moment, that he acknowledged me. And that feeling has been what's carried me through.
Mm.
That feeling of taking the risk to speak my truth and then to receive whatever I was to receive as the end result. And I got lucky in one sense that somebody did choose to listen, and I've been blessed ever since. So,
You know,
thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much. I love it, love it, love it. Taking risks, taking risks. You know, we have the tendency not to want to take risks because we don't want to be rejected, or we're scared that we don't want to offend, and then we downplay our value. That's you talked about envelopes, and I remember years ago, like yourself, I'm a speaker, and I wear many hats just like yourself. And I've kind of intentionally not talked too much about myself, because I want to make sure that whoever comes on the platform has enough time to share some nuggets from her life, but also whoever listens is able to take something away. And I guess I remember a story about preaching in a church, well, speaking in a church. Actually, it was, they were doing a women's event, so it wasn't preaching, it wasn't a Sunday service, it was a Saturday women's empowerment event. And in those days, I never used to ask about what was your budget. I would just want to serve, because that's what you do. As a child of God, you want to serve. And
Yep.
even if you're not a child of God, if you have a charitable heart, you just want to serve. And so at the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, somehow everything else will fall into place. And I remembered, I went to this event, and we were three women. I was the keynote speaker. The other two women, got given, bunches of flowers. I got given a bunch of flowers as well, but they, got paid, and I got prayers, which is fantastic. I love prayers. I'm a praying woman, but I was the keynote speaker, and I was wondering why that happened, and I realized I hadn't asked, "What's your budget?" Hadn't asked. And so, and I guess that lots of charities would, try their best not to pay because they want to make sure that whatever they have goes as far as possible. But at the same time, if you value yourself, you need, because what happened the year after, I was asked again if I could come and keynote. And obviously at the back of their minds, oh yeah, we'll just tell, Zina to come and keynote. After all, she's not going to charge, so that won't be a cost. So I said, oh yeah, I would love to. Let me check my calendar. But what is your budget? Oh,
Hmm.
we don't have a budget. I'm like, so how are you, and so from then on, I realized that if you don't attach value to whatever it is you do, it could be making tea. We're talking about tea. Do you want another? Shall I pour you another cup?
I haven't even sipped yet, but warm it up.
All
Warm
right.
it up.
All right. There you go. All right. Fantastic. I
We're
didn't tell
pretty.
you what it
I
was.
love it.
It's
Thank you.
how it's. I'm not trying to say that you need calming down, but this is really nice.
I've been
But
noted to be loud as well, so calming down
you,
is good.
you and me both, darling. You and me both. And I realized that if you don't actually step in your power, like you said earlier on, and if you don't step in your power, and if you don't value yourself and put the right boundaries on, no one else is going to value you. Now, from then on, when I do come to speak for them, they already know. They're asking me, what hotel do I want to stay on? What's my, travel expenses. Whereas before, I never asked. I didn't know you asked. I thought they would just know, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
you might be listening right now, whoever you are, and it doesn't matter what you do, the kind of work you do, whether you're a homemaker, whether you go out to work, whether you work with your hands, but you need to attach value to it, because if you don't attach value to what you do, it means that you don't value what you do. So so for instance, some people say, oh, I just want to help and everything, but you need to get to the place. You need to take a taxi, take a train, take a bus, walk. You were talking about buying your son's boots. If you're wearing boots or shoes, they wear out. You need to replace your shoes or replace let's say if you work with your hands, you need to replace all the different materials that you use. If you knit or if you sew, all these things cost money. My younger daughter, she's in university, but she also does hair, and she's converted one of the rooms in my house as her salon. And I tell her that you do know that you need to cost for the light in your cost, but also what you're giving me. She's not giving me a dime anyway, but you need to cost for your, the electricity, for the wear and tear of the stairs when they're walking up the stairs and my carpet and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's just to get us into that um habit of having a cost structure for everything that we do. Everything has a cost structure. And so I'm so glad that you shared that story, especially in terms of taking the risk. Dare to be different, dare to really go out and not mind what anybody else says. Think you have to put yourself first so that you can give people much more than you can give them when you put yourself last. And with that, I want to ask you another question about,
Oh,
can you give us an example where you've put yourself last and what kind of results did that come? What did that bring about? Apart from children, because the children is always that's an easy
so
one.
I think I'm going to twist it a tiny bit, if I may.
Of course you
What
can.
I have done, what I've really done to teach my boys are two things. First is the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do. But my second golden rule, life, my second one is you can always ask. I think when we're not prepared to ask the questions or have the
Mm,
conversation, those moments have been when I put myself last.
yes,
And I'm
yes,
not saying
yes,
I stand up for myself all the time, because I don't.
yes,
There are certain communities and groups and individuals, friends and family, that I don't do that with, and sometimes I have to. Right? It's not something I wear on my chest like a badge. It's not something I need to point to it and it says "trust me," or "it's my time." It is about um, as taking the question to have the conversation. And for me, that's brought more reward. But when I haven't taken that chance, when I haven't asked the question, um, it could be as simple as, have I offended you? Do do I need to apologize to you for something when we're dealing with
Yes.
relationships? And that's especially with my boys,
Yes.
because that's who I've lived with, and we are each other's tribe. We
Yep.
are the knitted family. And the other times are also, tough when we ask about that, because it tends to be on the negative side, but I think also it can be on the positive side. It's like, hey, do you love me? Or hey, did that song sound okay? Or, did I, it's the whole, was I too loud? Was I too this? But it doesn't have to be from a negative standpoint. We are opening a
Absolutely.
conversation when we ask someone's opinion of something. And, and I think, as long as we do that in a safe environment, then we're okay for that. And, so I have to say again, when I have not asked the question, I've not taken the chance to have the conversation. That's when I put myself last. Now, sometimes it's important to hold the tongue. Actually, bite the tongue, swallow the blood.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. 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 Yes.
There's a time and place for that too. It's not about asking the questions all the time, but if people matter, then they need to know that we think they matter, and that's really only
Yes.
going to happen in a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What I'd like to do, because time goes really quick when we're having fun. It really does. I'd
Yeah.
like you to quickly tell us, what you have, in the pipeline for 2024, the kind of chance you're taking on yourself, and if you can sing us out, one or two
Oh,
bars if possible.
okay. 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 So, yeah, I've bitten off a little bit here. Yes, my son and I have completed a book from a couple of years ago. We're just going to get the illustrations done. I have not one, not two, but three books in the pipe that are all
Yeah,
kind
exciting.
of connected. So I'm to putting all of those four into publishing in 2024. I'm
Fantastic.
starting comedy lessons the second Monday in January,
She is
and I'm going
really
to see how
funny.
that
Trust
fits with
me.
speaking.
She is so funny. She really is. Sorry, I did interrupt you.
Well, and from my music point of view, you can just type my name in as it's written here, Lisa Marie Flynn, into YouTube, into Facebook. You can find me anytime. But I want to combine. I want to see what's going to happen in this world, back into people's lives, not the IA or recorded music thing, but the live music thing. And that really is my commitment, to get that into jobs and, corporate areas, churches, and people's lives, to celebrate with edifying entertainment, to really lift their spirits and their souls and everything like that. So, yeah, I don't want to get in trouble with singing a song. Okay, well, I just sang at a funeral this morning. So we ended up with Amazing Grace. So I'll end up with that as we come out. So just Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. Thank you for having me, Dr. A. I love you.
Oh, I love you so much as well, Lisa Marie. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching our first show, our first episode of A Cup of Tea with Dr. Z. Until next time, God bless and stay safe. Goodbye. Let's see how we do this. uh, let's see. Let's see.